Who else is in Paris?
Yeah, it is.
Anyone else in Paris? Woo, it's hot today. I mean, it's nice. I'm not complaining, but it's hot. It's hot. It's hot, and it's good because I have a bunch of rosé in front of me. We're going to be talking about rosé. First of all, I want to introduce myself.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah. Do you know a lot about wine, Madeleine?
No, I do not.
You know you like it. That's all that matters.
I do like it, yeah.
Yeah, that's all that matters. So a little bit about my background. So I'm from Florida, and I moved to the Bay Area in California back in the 90s, and I went to culinary school and became a chef. But, you know, you really can't help being immersed in, if you're immersed in food in the Bay Area, wine is kind of a natural follow. So I started learning about wine, worked in wine, got a sommelier cert and all that stuff, and just really just dove in. And that's, you know, that was a few minutes ago. And nowadays, I just kind of do it for fun. But that's really, I think, what you should do wine for anyway, is always for fun. But what is very interesting, hopefully I'm going to be able to share the screen, because when I got to Paris, and I don't know about you, Madeleine, when I got to Paris, there were some very interesting things that I picked up. First of all, Parisians love wine, number one. There are roughly 40,000 restaurants in Paris, and I would probably say 39,999 of them sell wine. So that's a given. You can get wine on any corner, at most any cafe, anywhere, anytime. The quality varies, but it's always local for the most part. By local, I mean French. And, you know, you can get an inexpensive little sipper for a couple of euro all the way up to, you know, the sky's the limit. But I also noticed that that's all you're going to get here, essentially, is French wine. There are not, I don't know that I've seen one California wine since I've been here. So, and the styles are actually really quite different. French wine for the most part. Are you familiar, Madeleine, with Old World versus New World wines?
Actually, no, I've never heard of that.
So Old World wines are basically where vitis vinifera, which is the Latin word for, I won't try to get too technical here, for grape varietals that are used for wine. Essentially, Europe is Old World wine, and anything outside of Europe, for the most part, is New World wine. That would be California and Washington, Oregon. They even make wine in Texas, for all you Texans out there. Australia, South Africa, those would be New World wines. And there are definitely some differences. And as we go farther into the series of this wine Euro, this happiness wine hour that we get to spend together, or roughly, I tend to talk a lot. We'll get into all those kinds of things, but there's nothing but French wine essentially here. You can get some Italian wines at some shops, but when you go to just the regular grocery store, and this is actually quite interesting. I really hope I can share the screen. When you go to the grocery store, this is essentially what you get. Can you let me know if you can see this, Madeleine, at all? So this is just the regular Carrefour. Can you see this, Madeleine? Or anyone?
I can see all the photos. I guess you've just clicked on one, but it's not showing me one.
I did.
Wait, it's coming.
Is it? Maybe it's a little.
Yes, there we go.
Slower. Very good. So I'm going to go back to this one because that's a brand that probably most Americans know, Mouton Cadet, and it's like it probably was at one time more boutique kind of wine many years ago, but it's a kind of a bulk wine. But they actually do sell it here in Paris, and this is just literally in a local, somewhat bigger of a grocery store. But as you can see here, there's more wine here, and these are mostly Bordeaux's, and then we have some more wine. And actually here, you'll see there's a lineup of rosés right here. And then we have some bubbly down here. And some of it's champagne, some of it's probably Prosecco from Italy. Then we have, oh, more wine, or as they say in France, vin, more. And you really, more wine. So this here, this is actually champagne. And ooh, look at that, I accidentally zoomed in. And you'll see here also to the left of this little pyramid of champagne, you'll see there's a special section for organic wines. Those are becoming really, really popular here in France and Paris especially. There are actually almost 200 cellars involved in making biodynamic or organic wine. And more. And this is not double. I didn't take double pictures of any of the rows. This is just this much wine. So when you come here, it's a double-edged sword. Oh, more rosé, and we're going to get to that. But pink is the drink of this season. And as I was saying, it's really quite hot here in Paris these days. So people are grabbing bottles of rosé and heading down for picnics and things like that. But I helped him choose a wine. He actually spoke a little bit of English and was baffled, and I kind of helped him. So I did my good deed for the day. But it's interesting because 40,000 restaurants, that much wine, and it's a double-edged sword because you think, oh my gosh, all of these choices. What do I do? Then you go from being excited maybe to being a little bit overwhelmed if you're not used to knowing how to read a bottle, knowing what it means, what the varietals and all these things. But like I said, as we go through the series, we'll unravel all of the mysteries of French wine. So I did want to say, also kind of a fun thing is that the average French person drinks 50 to 60 liters of wine per year. So I'm an American, so I have no idea about the metric system. So maybe that's a lot. I think that sounds about normal. But I wanted to show you one thing. This is a very classic bottle. And I'm going to point out some really important facts about it that can kind of demystify the whole French wine label thing. So let me know if you need me to bring the label closer, or you need, I know that there's a little bit of a shine on it. The sun is in a really nice position, but you can see here, this actually
looks good.
Yeah, so this is this bottle is basically, you can see the shape of it. It's a slope-shouldered bottle. And you can a lot of times tell the type of grape varietal, or at least in a certain grouping, by the shape of the bottle. I'll show you a different kind of bottle, and it's going to be, I'll show you this one. This is a high-shouldered bottle. So this is probably one of those things that you subliminally noticed, subconsciously noticed, but you can actually tell a lot about where a wine comes from sometimes, or what kind of grape varietal it is by the shape of the bottle. So this here is it's from Burgundy, or as they say in French, Bourgogne. And many moons ago, back when my mom was drinking wine with all her friends, it was Burgundy. People just drank Burgundy. And you know, in those big giant like Ernest and Julio Gallo bottles. But Burgundy is actually, it's actually a region, and I'm going to go back and share the screen here. It's a region in France, and it's actually quite close to Paris. I have a friend that makes wine down in Chablis, which is in Burgundy, and I'm hoping to be able to visit him or get him to do a little a session with me, because he makes incredible wine in Chablis. He really does, and won an award and everything. So you can see where Paris is. Do you see where I'm circling here at all, Madeleine? My cursor here in Paris?
Yes.
Okay, good. So there we are in Paris. Hi, Madeleine. I'm waving at you. I see you. I'm poking you with the cursor. So basically, it looks like it's a really long drive, but believe it or not, to get down here is only a couple of hours. And so down here, this is basically Burgundy. This whole area here is Burgundy. And when you get there, it really is charming, beautiful, curving roads and green, lush vineyards. And right here, you'll see Beaune. Beaune is an area in Burgundy, and that is actually where this wine comes from. So this is not a small producer. This is a pretty, kind of a larger producer. And it's Bouchard, Aîné et Fils, which is, I know feels like children. So basically it's the Bouchard family that makes this wine, although it's probably a corporation at this point. But if you ever see a bottle like this from France and it says Bourgogne on it and it's a red, it is almost 100% a Pinot Noir. So basically a French Burgundy is always going to be a Pinot Noir. If you see a Burgundian, that's another term, a Burgundian wine, and it is white, it is a Chardonnay. So what the French do for the most part, that's changing now just with kind of marketing and things like that. They identify with regions. So a Burgundy is actually not a type of grape. It's where the wine comes from. So you'll see again, and it says on here Pinot Noir. And I think they do that because they're trying to educate the consumers a little bit more. So that's a move in that direction, even though the wine label's pretty classic. They're actually trying to educate a little bit more. So I'm gonna put my glasses on. I don't really need them. They're purely decorative, but I just wanna look really smart. Oh my gosh, I can really see a lot now. Oh, I didn't even see it. It did say Beaune on it. There you go, boom, boom. So Beaune, B-E-A-U-N-E, the region in Burgundy. And it's Appellation Bourgogne Contrôlée. So they're pretty firm on how they control where wine is made and in the regions and things like that. So, you know what? I want to make sure. Oh, I think I have some questions and I haven't. Oh, hey. It takes me a little while. As like I said, I'm a little old school, a little new school. I have to. Hey, I gotta get on the chat. I have my keyboard here, so I'm going to try to command. I got the control center going here. The control center, I have wine, keyboard, olives, nibbles, glass of wine, and water. That's actually really important. Make sure when you go wine tasting or drink wine, if you want to actually remember what you've had and have a great next day, try to match the water to your wine. Try to drink as much water as you do wine, and you'll usually be fine. Ooh, that rhymed. And that did too. So what you're going to see in the back here, and I'll read a little tiny bit. And this is another way you can tell that they have realized that they have an English-speaking market, and they have their description in French, and then they have it here in the bottom. And usually it's kind of a fantastical description. It doesn't really tell you too much about the wine, and sometimes that's not even all that accurate. Everybody's tastes are very different, as we know. Since 1750, the family is devoted to excellence, and oh, of course they are. They wouldn't say anything different. In the region's noble grapes. They have actually been around a long time. If you look them up, you know, they have photos of the winemakers in the family, and they're practically wearing powdered wigs. So, and another thing you'll notice a lot of times with French wines, the alcohol content tends to be a bit lower. In New World wines, like we talked about before, New World being in the United States, California, Oregon, in very hot regions, especially like California, you're going to get the opportunity to get those grapes really, really ripe, which boosts the sugar up. Thereby, during the winemaking process, the yeast can eat a lot more sugar. There's a lot more available, and it'll kick out alcohol in the back end. So you're going to get wines usually in very hot regions, growing regions in the world, that can top 14, 15, 16%. And that's not even fortified wines or late harvest wines, and we'll get into that in a subsequent chat. But this wine here is 13%, which tells me that's a pretty balanced wine. It's not going to be too alcoholic, too hot. It won't be too rich, too fruity, and you don't get that balance. It's probably going to have a nice acid backbone, which we call, and that kind of makes it a nice, well-rounded wine, good with food. You almost can't go wrong with a wine like this with almost any kind of French food, sometimes even lighter foods, because it is usually pretty well balanced. So that's kind of the beginnings. I wanted to say there are probably a couple of other things on here, you know, that you could pull from it, but we'll scoot it on because I really wanted to get into rosés. So it is the rosé season because that's basically anytime it starts to get hot. A lot of times in the U.S. especially, we are weaned on pink wines. So pink wines usually mean something like White Zinfandel. Sorry, I have an allergic reaction when I say that. White Zinfandel is usually really, really sweet. I kind of call it like melted lollipop wine, like kind of sugary sweet. And I can't really fault it too much in the sense that it does open people up to drinking wine because usually people have to get into wine kind of like easily, like dip a toe in the water kind of situation because wine can be super complex and there's this mystery about it and you know, and people think it's very snobby and really at its essence it's not, but we've kind of made it that way. So any way you can get into wine and really enjoy it, I'm all for. So if that means you drink pink and it's really like sweet, that's fine, but make sure you kind of keep exploring that. But I wanted to show you, I have 3 examples. One is an empty bottle because we did enjoy it last night. I couldn't help myself. It was actually super warm last night too. So it was just it was perfect. We had a little party here. So it was the perfect thing to have with Aperitif. And if you want to know what Aperitif is, go to the Experience First blog. And I wrote a nice little blog post about Aperitif. It's like such a fantastic thing here in France and Paris especially, but it's kind of an excuse to get together and eat and drink with your friends. But I'll show you. So what's kind of cool is that rosé wine here is dry. So what does dry mean? What is dry versus not dry? Or so basically wine is classified dry if it is not sweet. So that doesn't mean it doesn't have a good fruit flavor or a nice round profile and fruitiness. It's just not sweet per se. And also really nice because it's quite affordable. You can go grab a very decent rosé at any corner grocery store here for entry level $5. And I have yet to have a bad one. There are some that are a little better than others, more complex, more fruit flavors, a little more complicated. But generally speaking, they're all really quite good and very nice for quaffing on a hot summer day in Paris at a picnic. So we'll go over this one. And they've gotten a little bit fancy with their bottling, and I totally appreciate that. And this is, this is also a, here in France, they call anything that's organic bio, B-I-O. So this is a bio wine, organic processes to grow and vent. And it is, it's from Provence. So I do have one more screen I want to show you. I believe one more picture on the screen. In Provence, let's see, hopefully I can figure this out. And where did my Provence go? I knew I had one here, but unfortunately, I think I can't quite get to it because my face is covering the screen. So anyway, I wonder if I can see some of it here. So, well, I can't move farther, but this is Burgundy. If you go south about, I don't know, depends on if you're on the high-speed train, it only takes a few hours to get to the south of France from here. High-speed train is totally where it's at. You can hit all kinds of wine regions from here. But Provence and this other wine that came from Nîmes is south of France, gets very hot, and it's the Mediterranean area. So these wines go superbly with Mediterranean foods, with ripe tomatoes, lots of yummy herbs like thyme, basil, salty olives, fruits even. When you have that nice salty sweet balance in a oh my gosh, really good with anything niçoise, which is with those, like you've heard, salad niçoise has tuna and olives and tomatoes, super with those things, and any kind of seafood. And of course, it's pink. It also goes really good with French ham. So usually these pink wines are, and how they get pink is kind of fun. So the way that they become pink is that they are actually red grapes that only sit, after they're pressed, they only sit with their skins, sit on the skin, grape skins, for just a little while, and then they drain it off. So some of the color is pulled out. If it sat for a really long time, all of the color would be pulled out, and that's where you get a red wine. But this is kind of an in-between, which so you get a little bit more body, a little bit more complex flavors a lot of times. That's why these are so good with almost any kind of food. And even still, a Brut Rosé, so a sparkling kind of pink wine. And again, that's for later down the road. Just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. You add bubbles to this, and by add bubbles, I mean Brut Rosé, just delicious, delicious. So here, so this is really fun. This is a Corsican Rosé. So Corsica is an island off of the coast of France, and I haven't been, but I hope to go soon. So Corsica can be, it's very rugged. When you eat cheeses from Corsica, they can be very strong. They're very herbaceous a lot of times. So this kind of wine, and I don't know if it's going to say what type of grape it is, and it's in French, but you can kind of tell probably from the shape of the bottle. A lot of times when you see a shape like this, you'll get grapes like Syrah, Cinsault, Mourvèdre, that kind of thing. But you really can make a rosé out of most any kind of red grape. Pinot Noir, I mean, you'll get a pink wine. Pinot Noir a lot of times will be in this shaped bottle. And like I said, they're just absolutely fantastic food wines. So the empty one, you can imagine it was pink. It was pink last night. And Bandol. So this is from Nîmes. And yes, so okay, so yes, it's like a baby red. So what's interesting too is a lot of times when you look in the store and you see the whole lineup, I don't know if you can tell it from here, you'll see some of them are very, very light, very, very light. Let's see, and I mean just barely a rosé. So most of these are kind of the same color. I was hoping, I wonder where the man is standing in front of that I was talking to. Where is he? Hey, buddy, there he is. There were a couple, like you can see up here, a little bit lighter. Some of them are so light they barely have any pink at all. And that's just kind of up to the discretion of the winemaker, how much they want to pull off of it. But I mean, there's just some, like I said, this was just one row. And rosés are actually becoming, they've been steadily becoming more popular in the United States just because people are a little bit less afraid of them as they become educated. There have been a lot of, I remember I was a GM at a restaurant in San Francisco, and I was in charge of the wine list. And anytime I heard somebody order, we had a rosé on the list. It was a pretty small wine list. It was a really good wine list. Anytime I heard somebody order a rosé, I would go up to the server and I'd say, you know, are they aware that it's a very dry rosé? Because sometimes people would order it and they were going to be thinking that they're getting a more sweet kind of wine, higher sugar, you know, that type of thing. And so occasionally, and this is something to remember, if you're used to drinking maybe sweet pink wine and you want to, open your world to different kinds of other types of grape varietals, I would actually go to the table and say, you know, excuse me, I know you ordered the rosé and I'm happy to give you a taste, because a lot of times we actually had it open. And I explained to them, you know, it's actually quite dry. Oh, no, I really like my wine more sweet. So sometimes I would even steer them to a white that had a more fruit nature, that was a little more ripe fruit, because it can be perceived as, I mean, it really does have a little more sugar content. So it was actually even better choice than the really dry rosé. But Bandol, if you ever go and you see a wine from Bandol, you're usually going to be spot on with a really nice, good fruit character. It has a little bit of spice to it sometimes. And Bandol is also south of France, really kind of in the heart of Provence, essentially. So again, this is like screaming for seafood, salmon especially. Salmon, oh, even smoked salmon would be so good. So I wanted to, this is what I'm drinking right now. I just popped it open and I wanted to share with you some of the, I'm getting to the chat a little bit here when I do this. So, oh yeah, so Madeleine, we'll have to talk about Texas wine at some time. There's actually an incredible, by the way, an incredible sparkling wine that comes out of New Mexico, believe it or not. I may have to, when I get back to the United States and come back, I'm gonna have to like smuggle some in and we'll share it. So, well, I mean, check the bag actually. So, and feel free to interrupt me anytime because sometimes I know we get a little glitchy back and forth. So this wine here, so you can tell it's a high-shouldered bottle, and this wine is Bordeaux. It's from Bordeaux, and so the first tip off is that it's and Bordeaux is oh my God, I wish I would have had I wasn't going to bring this wine into the situation, but I am now because I still have a few minutes. So this is the new situation wine. So La Réserve Blanc. So it's basically their reserve white. And that's kind of just at the winemaker's discretion, what they want to call reserve. So Chateau L'Hospitalet, I don't know much about it. I guess it was a hospital potentially at some point. The French tend to do that type of thing. So what's interesting, now that I'm reading what's in it, this is like a hodgepodge of different kinds of varietals. So some of the varietals are very Bordeaux, and some of them are like Rhone area actually, but still sort of in the same area. And some are there's an Italian. So okay, so this is a fun one. I'm glad I picked this up to show you. So I'm going to read the back, not in French. Something about élevé sur un terroir légendaire. So it's probably an elevated legendary terroir. So terroir, we'll get into that. That's another wine speak term that we'll get into later on down the road. Terroir, I'm sure you've heard of terroir. I have an incredible story about terroir. It's something I actually just learned from my friend down in Chablis a few months ago. Blew my mind. I cannot wait to show you the video on that one, but that's maybe next time or the time after. So so it says Légendaire des calcaires fissures. So I'm thinking, I know what calcaire is like, probably like fossils or something, like fissures. So a fissure I know is a break. Where the wine grapes go, the vines go way down in there. And actually the more they have to struggle, generally the better the grapes are. It doesn't produce as many grapes, but they have a lot more flavor, a lot more character of the terroir. Yeah. Maybe you can help me. Léo des massifs de la Clappe Supplombant. That's a word I've never heard of, the Mediterranean. That I can figure that one out. So it says it's composed of Bourbon, Roussan. Roussan is an incredibly fragrant wine, incredibly fragrant grape. Grenache Blanc, also a very, very fragrant grape. Vermentino, a little Italian. And Viognier. Again, those three, the Roussan, Grenache Blanc, and Viognier. I mean, that's the kind of wine you're like, just dab a little behind the ears. It's just incredibly feminine, just beautiful and aromatic. It's an elegant wine. It's great with, it has notes of, d'agrumes, that's citrus, yes? Where's my Madeleine?
Arome, like aroma?
No, agrumes. Agrumes is like oranges or agrumes.
Oh yeah. Yes. I haven't heard that before, but Gilles is saying yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it is. You're correct.
Yeah, I got it. And the only reason I know that is when I go to weigh my vegetables and fruits at the store, you can hit fruits or vegetables, and then if you hit fruits, agrumes is like its own section. It's all the citrus. So it's saying it's going to be citrus. It's ideal with viande blanche, which light meats basically. Poisson, which is seafood, fish Fish. Fruits de mer, which is fruits of the sea, which would be seafood. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I speak French. I'm going to translate this for you. Don't worry. It's not written here in English. The reserve wine comes from the famous limestone terroir of the Massif de la Clappe and is a blend of Bourboulon, Roussanne, Grenache Blanc, Brevitino, and Viognier. Elegant and balanced with citrus and honey notes. Oh yeah, miel. Ooh, I thought it was miel, but miele. Serve at 10 to 12 degrees, which, well, I have a new thermometer. I'm going to make sure I'm serving it with chicken, fish, and shellfish, or as an aperitif. So we're at an aperitif here. So again, I don't have my proper wine glass here because I really wasn't going to be drinking on camera, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. And we'll go over again how to taste wine. Probably I think that's going to be next week's, how to taste wine. I want to get a different glass that actually has
Yay.
on it. We'll do, yeah, that's the fun thing. And you know, well, Colin, you're going to, ooh, can I tell you, it's straight up like citrus. And you can't be afraid to like really stick your nose in there. It isn't, you know, it isn't the sexiest thing, but this is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're doing the little bubble thing I was saying. Because earlier Tracy asked me if I knew anything about wine, and I was like, no, I just know that you have to do a bubble thing when you taste it, and I can't even describe what that is.
Yeah, I mean, some people, they really, I mean, you know, back when I was actually working in wine on an almost daily basis, it's really nice. It has a very long aftertaste. We call it a finish, but it really is an aftertaste. This is a good bang for your buck wine because it's something that kind of keeps giving and giving. It's kind of jasmine and honeysuckle too. It's nice. But the funniest thing is when you're in a room with like a bunch of like wine snobs, and everybody's very focused, and they're making their notes and they're going like this. It's just silent other than this. Think of the collective noise of about 200 of these. Very hot, like totally hot, super hot. And I'm gonna actually have an olive to end it. Oh yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Ooh.
Going for a picnic. That's it. I'm going for a picnic. Who's coming with me? Who's gonna meet me? I'm gonna grab the bottle and go for a picnic. Well, Madeleine, you are gonna have to come here sometime. Right. What?
I said that sounds delightful.
Oh yes, I think I'm gonna go to Place de Vosges. Now everything's open again for the most part. Yeah, we were gonna go to Jardin des Plantes, but I don't think it's open yet. I think they really want to make it look nice before they open. But Place de Vosges.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite picnic spots. Well, supposed. I've only looked at it kind of from the outside, looking in like this. So I get to have my first picnic, and I hope I get to meet a handsome man there. We'll see. But next time, you're gonna have to come here. We'll have to do the tasting here, because I really gotta get right in my face so we can go together.
That sounds perfect.
Thank you. And I will see you next week. And I will see you next week, wherever you are.
Yes, I'm right here.
I know. I see your name, so I know you're right there. Well, merci beaucoup for joining me. To everyone.
No worries. Thank you so much. That was so informative. Absolutely. I didn't realize you had this much experience in wine.
Girl, I'm old. But so wait, tomorrow you and I have a thing at 6?
6, yes.
Yes.
So visiting Paris.
Noon Eastern time, 9 Pacific Standard Time, and wherever you are in between, you have to do the calculation. But yeah, so Madeleine and I are going to chit chat about Paris tomorrow, and then Friday we have another spooky stories. I always love that one. That's most fun on Fridays. That's super fun Fridays. And then Saturday I have Paris Promenade, and then Sunday, one of my favorite things on the weekend is the writing workshop with you. So we have a full gamut of things for you to do. Make sure you tune in always to either the Facebook or the YouTube page, Experience First. Go to the website, experiencefirst.com. I think it's exp1.com. And just we have things going on in New York City too. We're going to entertain you in all corners of the world. So, au revoir, à demain, à bientôt, bisous.
Goodbye, au revoir.
You got to shut me down because I'll just sit here and drink wine all day.
Okay, I'll end the meeting then.